today's episode, we will be tying the resin back scud. Our material list as follows. We are using a 12 scud hook, a 7/64 bead, olive guinea for the antenna and feelers, a olive scudback, and a small black UTC wire wire for our ribbing. Now, when I tie my scuds, I like to get this step out of the way. Start with your antenna, which are going to be underneath your bead. So start your thread above the bead. Find yourself the amount of guinea you want for your antenna. And then we're just going to tie that right on top of the shank. Give it a couple of wraps, figure out your length. A couple more wraps to lock it in. Cut your excess. Give it a couple of whip finishes. And now that's out of the way, we can slide our bead forward. Today's bead happens to be a metallic olive. So now what we do is we grab our chunk of guinea again. We're going to take another chunk for the tail. Just going to advance our thread down roughly where we want to tie in. We will go a little further down the shank. Get your tail material. Tie that in on the top of the shank. Now, grab our shellback. In this case, just a olive shellback here. Kind of a dark olive brown to be exact. I'm just going to tie that in at the same point. Now here's where I walk it down just a little bit down the shank. And as I'm tying in, I'm pulling it down, stretching it, and kind of form over top of the tail, keeping it straight on top of the shank. With my wire, I will tie in so it's on the opposite side. Now at this point, we're going to make a dubbing loop. That's our thread up out of the way. Grab your spinner. And your favorite olive scudly dubbing that you choose. This is literally called Scud Dub Olive Brown, as per my Sharpie markings. What it is, who knows? That's the joys of fly tying. You can tie with whatever materials or play in the spectrum of your colors as you choose. Nobody's going to tell you right from wrong, whether human or finned. I'm just going to spin our dubbing loop up. At this point, what I do is I will just tease out a little bit so it's not just a giant rope in the center. And then we will wrap that up the shank, starting right where your tail started, where your back starts. And we'll run that all the way up the body. Just tie that material off right behind the bead. Next we'll take our scud back what I like to do is just get some of that dubbing off the top, fold it down, and then we'll take our scud back, bring her back right over the top, get it into place. Tie that off. Now, because the scud back is under tension, you've already cut it off. What I like to do before I wrap my rib, in case I screw something up or my thread unravels, I will give it a quick 1 or 2 wrap whip finish. Don't cut your thread off like I was about to, force habit. Now, when I do my ribbing, what I like to do is pull all the fibers of dubbing down. And when I rib, I will grab a small rake, and what I will do is, as I'm ribbing and I'm going over the side closest to me where that dubbing will go over top of the back, I just give it a little rake, and it keeps a lot of that material off the back, so you're going to get a nice clean shell back. If you don't have a rake, a toothpick, or a pin, whatever you have on hand, and that's just going to keep that shell back nice and clean. If anything does get trapped up there, we can always trim it before we add our resin. Now, like every fly, it's personal preference. If you want to have a 9-rib scud or a 6-rib scud or a 7-rib scud, it's your choice. And of course, it comes down to what you are representing. So now we've got our wire up right to the back of the bead. Just do a couple wraps. Secure that in. Just wiggle it off. A couple more wraps over top of that tag. Do your whip finish. And we are done. Now, like I said, make sure that the majority of that material is off that back. It'll give us a nice clean back in the end. At this point, we're just going to grab our UV resin of choice. And just coat that shell back. Now this is a nice thin material. I'm not trying to add too much bulk to the back. Just give it your light cure. At this point, what I'll do is I will just cut some of that material off because we don't need it super long. And we're going to tease out a little bit more so that we have some short and some long sticking out. There you go. That is our resin back scud. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. You can also check out my Instagram page. It's Bearded Trout 250, or my fly tying page on Facebook is bearded trout's flies. Thank you. Have a good day.